The time is 0430 in the Pacific. The ocean is dark, still, and not interested. The officer of the deck of the USS, Gerald R. Ford, examines two digital readouts that are more important than anything else right now: distance and speed. 120 feet, 13 knots. A fleet replenishment ship runs almost precisely parallel to the starboard side, so close that you could almost touch it. Steel and steel. There was a gap barely wider than 3 school buses lined up end to end between thousands of tons of displacement. There are thick fuel hoses that look like arteries that span over open water. Jet fuel flows at thousands of gallons per minute. It seems like weakness from above. 2 ships worth $1 billion tied together, moving slowly and in a predictable way, and without being able to change course. People who analyze from their armchairs say this is the carrier's weakest point. The Navy of the United States names it something else: the box of death. Stay with this if you value tactical accuracy under pressure, because we don't have to guess what will happen next. It's a doctrine, and doctrine never loses. The fantasy of weakness. Underway, replenishment, or unrep. It sounds like a procedure. Administrative, normal. It is anything but. Both ships must go exactly 13 knots in order to stay on course. Slower speeds and hydrodynamics make the rudders less stable. The Venturi effect, which happens when water moves faster and compresses between hulls, pulls the ships toward each other with horrifying intensity. At this distance, one mistake at the helm leads to a crash before anyone can say anything. There is no room for improvisation. That is exactly why enemies make mistakes. It looks like a golden window from space. A nuclear-powered aircraft carrier is attached to a fuel ship that is carrying millions of gallons of JP-5. Heading that can be predicted. Set speed, it can't run fast. Without cutting gasoline lines, it can't break formation. It appears stuck. No, it isn't, because the carrier isn't alone. The unseen boundary. The air is already controlled 200 miles out. An E-2D advanced Hawkeye flies in tight loops high above the formation. It sees everything. Its radar horizon goes beyond the curve. A surveillance radius of 400 miles. Every release, every heat blossom, every variation in altitude. 2 F-35C Lightning II patrol quietly underneath it, with their radar disabled and data going straight to their helmet monitors. They don't send out signals. They don't say they're there. They hunt without being able to see the enemy, but the Hawkeye's network keeps them fully informed. F/A, 18. Super Hornet planes fly in layers behind them, carrying external storage and long-range missiles. Stealth scouts move ahead, trucks with missiles behind. No making things up. Don't panic, just geometry. If a hostile bomber formation thinks it can unleash cruise missiles from a safe distance, it must first get past the outer ring. They never do. Drones are now part of the picture. Now take a new path. 30 cheap suicide drones took off from different places. Small radar cross-sections, set up to come together at the same time. An effort to take over. At 0437, the electronic warfare console on a screening Arleigh Burke class destroyer picks up strange emissions, control frequencies, telemetry bursts. The system doesn't immediately stop working. First, it listens. The AN/SLQ 32 electronic warfare suite picks up the radar signature, puts it back together, and sends bad data back into the hostile signal path. This is not blocking noise. This is a problem with thinking. Long-range increase. There isn't usually just one way that escalation happens. Let's say an enemy executes a coordinated strike package. Bombers stay out of radar range on the surface and get ready to unleash cruise missiles from 300 miles away. The Hawkeye sees them as they are still going up. Targeting data flows into the F-35 cockpit without making a sound. The stealth fighters never turn on their own radar. AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles depart Super Hornet rails at 110 miles. The bombers never see the shooters with their own eyes. When defensive countermeasures go off, the engagement is over. Missile trails bloom across the sky. Before it releases, the strike package falls apart. The outer ring stays. Theory of the blind spot. One weakness is regularly mentioned by critics. The supply ship rides on the right side while it is refilling. Parts of the carrier's defensive arc are blocked by its hull. They say that a hypersonic missile coming from that angle would use radar masking. That argument doesn't work, because the carrier strike group isn't just one platform. 3/4 of a mile behind and to the right of the sails is either a Ticonderoga-class cruiser or another Arleigh Burke destroyer. This location is not by chance. It is geometry that has been improved over many years. Through Naval Integrated Fire Control, counter-air, targeting data from sensors in the air goes straight to the Aegis combat system on the Escort. The Escort doesn't need its own radar lock. It fires based on data from the network. Cells for vertical launch open. An SM-6 missile speeds up toward the sky. It doesn't go for a target at Mach 5. It figures out the intercept. Convergence head-on. Fragmentation of the blast at a closing speed above the speed of sound. At high altitudes, the hypersonic weapon turns into garbage. The blind spot was never really blind. The middle-range layer. What if a few cruise missiles that skim the sea survive long-range interception? They drop to the height of the waves, weaving and using radar clutter. The initial response comes from the ESSM batteries on the Escorts. Missiles for the evolved Sea Sparrow. Fins that change the direction of thrust let you move at 50 Gs. Cruise missiles that try to avoid being hit by terminal patterns are caught and destroyed in lateral bursts. One slips closer, seconds before contact. An RIM-116, rolling airframe missile, launches from the carrier's sponson. It spins around 360 times every second. The infrared seeker is locked. Close Mach 2, the missile blows up miles away from the hull of the cargo ship. The last pieces fall without hurting anyone. And if debris is still a threat, the penultimate layer kicks in. Phalanx CIWS with 6 barrels, 4,500 shots every minute. A wall made of tungsten. It doesn't miss. There is a lot of shredded metal in the air. The supply ship is still well. The fuel keeps coming. Unrep doesn't stop. The AIR domain collapse. The E-2D Hawkeye sorts incoming planes while they are still in enemy airspace. F-35C fighters change their vector without sending anything. Super Hornets line up to fire missiles from a distance. AIM-120 missiles are already in the air before the bombers get close to the launch envelope. Engagements that are out of sight end in less than 90 seconds. No cruise missiles are let go. The air layer was neutralized before Step 2 started. Electronic warfare dominance. The drone swarm tries to get in at a low altitude. Electronic warfare does more than only jam. It puts bad navigation data into the system. Drones that fly themselves go off course. Laser systems get rid of people who are behind. Cost asymmetry is good for the defender. Electricity wins over mass production. Hypersonic intercept. The battery on the coast flames. Moving around toward the end. The Escort destroyer uses network targeting to launch SM-6 interceptors. The interception happens at a high altitude. Kinetic detonation is the same as releasing energy. The missile never gets to the descent phase. The hypersonic menace was stopped before it got close to the end. Failure underneath the surface. 2 diesel submarines try to shoot torpedoes in different directions. The Virginia-class submarine that is following the other one does aggressive positioning. Active sonar burst. The message is clear. Hours later, one submarine comes to the surface with an escort. The second one pulls out before the guns are released. The subsurface layer is still there. Defense in the middle. A few cruise missiles that skim the water from mobile launchers get by early warning systems. The ESSM interceptors fire in a ripple pattern. One rocket makes it to close range. The rolling airframe missile destroys it at a distance of 2 miles. Pieces break apart and don't hurt anyone. Phalanx never turns on, because the outer layers were already strong. The Counterstrike. The strike group doesn't stay on the defensive. Within minutes, Tomahawk missiles leave for coastal radar arrays, missile batteries, and command infrastructure. Discipline keeps it safe. No talking about celebrations and communications. No thrilling chase. The striking group changes the shape of the patrol. The air wing take turns watching. Destroyers make arcs bigger. The submarine starts following the grid again. Things are calm again. Control stays. Later, the 2 ships go their separate ways. Distance goes up more than 160 feet. The fuel lines pull back, The carrier speeds up. From space, everything looks normal. There is no wreckage near the formation. There are no smoke trails left. Just two warships, finishing a logistical evolution in waters that are hotly contested. There was never an illusion of weakness. It was a projection. And projection and preparation came together. This is the problem with the command. If you have to stop a carrier strike group from refueling, do you put your most advanced weaponry into a tiered defense that has been practicing this situation for decades? Or do you know that the slowest time in naval operations is frequently the most dangerous? If you know the answer, type Control beats chaos. Subscribe to Navy Recon, because the next fight will happen out of the blue. And when it does, we'll break it down in a calm, clear, and honest way. Keep this in mind till then. Speed is not real strength. It is all about integration. And integration is what lets the US Navy keep sailing any place on Earth, even at 13 knots.